Good morning, and thank you so much for tuning in to Brandy Lloyd Personal Training and Holistic Nutrition, where hopefully I will be sharing tips with you for lifestyle changes that are going to improve your health, maybe reverse some chronic conditions that you're dealing with, and really kind of take a lot of the confusion out of a lot of the nutrition advice and fads that are going around. And as always, I want to remind you that this is not medical advice. If you are undergoing any sort of treatment and have any questions, further deeper questions that might involve pharmaceuticals or your chronic disease or syndrome that you're dealing with, to make sure that you consult your physician about that. Today I'm super excited because I'm going to talk about something that is near and dear to my heart, no pun intended, yet completely literal: fat. Fighting the fat fight. There's a country song. I like all kinds of different music. And this morning after I dropped my son off at school, an old song came on about fighting the fight and don't stop now. And the devil won't even know you're there. Those are not the actual lyrics, but it's something like that. And because of my own personal studies and education, everything kind of pulls me back into nutrition. And I thought, oh my gosh, that's just like heart disease and chronic illness and all of this stuff. I have to say that most of the questions that I get from listeners and followers and my own clients are about the symptoms that come with not knowing what I'm going to talk to you about today. And that's fat. And that's our modern day diet. So what I would like to do today is just give you a very brief history lesson and go over some terms that we hear a lot about, like saturated, monounsaturated, polyunsaturated fats, short chain, long chain, very long chains, medium chain, what's an MCT, all of this kind of stuff, and how do we get here today and what do we do about it. So here we go. I hope you're taking notes. When I'm listening to podcasts from people that I respect and would like to glean information from, I usually have a piece of paper and a pen around if I can, or if you're like an Evernote taker or something. Of course, you can listen to this podcast a million times if you'd like, and I hope you share it. That's the whole reason why I'm doing this, is because I know this information and I use this information to effectively coach my own clients and students when it comes to weight loss, hormone issues, resistant weight loss, meaning they just haven't been able to lose the weight, or chronic illness, fatigue, migraines, bloating, headaches, anxiety, whatever it is. I use this information on a daily basis with the people that I am caring for. And the reason why I'm doing this podcast is to just kind of pay it forward and even further. So please share this. I'm really excited every time I check my statistics on the podcast and see just all over the world how these podcasts are going all over the world and how they're hopefully touching the lives of, I would love it, just millions of women. So let's do this. Anybody that you know, friend or family, that is struggling from, health issues or just has an interest in nutrition and sorting through some of the information that's out there, please share this. I would greatly appreciate it, just knowing that it's reaching even more people. So let's start here and just talk about people. Just speaking as an American right now, there has been no other period in our history as a nation where Americans have eaten so poorly. Isn't that just amazing? We can't go. I live in a rural area, so I can actually travel pretty far before I see a restaurant or a gas station, convenience store or something. I have to travel a little bit for it. But if you're in a real urban or city area, you can't go 10 yards without having the opportunity to buy some form of food. Yet here we are, making tons of money, having all sorts of eases in our life, like electricity and heaters and air conditioners and computers, and we can even call food and have it delivered right to our door, whether it is frozen meat or apparently, I've just learned this, McDonald's apparently will deliver your food. Absolutely crazy. So I'm shocked. Let me tell you a few other things about specifically us Americans. 1 in 3 people are suffering from allergies. My poor dad has went through years of allergy treatments. 1 in 10 have ulcers. Even fewer, the ratio is even tighter when it comes to people that have heartburn or GERD or acid reflux or something really uncomfortable like that. And I'm not even talking about bloating and constipation and indigestion. This is just ulcers and GERD. 1 in 5 of our citizens suffer from mental illness. And this one really kills me. 1 in 5 pregnancies end up in miscarriage. Of course, we have an increase in learning disabilities like dyslexia, ADD, and ADHD. Over 7 million of our citizens suffer with some sort of learning disability. And truthfully, where I'm getting a lot of this research is even 5 years old. So, we're just seeing this acceleration, kind of like a snowball effect with our poor health in the United States. And because of that, there is a real focus to how do we make this better? And rather than looking at the large powers that be, say like the FDA, to teach us, and the American Heart Association, the American Diabetes Association, the USDA, instead of turning to these powers, we are learning that we need to kind of turn back to ourselves a little bit and look at our own history as human beings. So whether you are a believer like me and believe that we were created by a creator, God, specifically for me, or whether you believe that there was a big bang and we drug ourselves out of some sort of swamp or something like that to where we are now, it's worse now than it was. Let's just say that. It's way, way worse. And whether or not you believe that we've been on this planet for 10,000 years or 10 million years, really this decline in health is a rather new occurrence. So something that I unfortunately say that I am one of the 50% of Americans that suffer from chronic illness. And actually, I have also heard that it might even be 1 in 3 Americans. This is a statistic that really bothers me. This next one I'm going to share with you because I never really thought too much about aging. Of course, when I was in my teens and my 20s, you start to think about it a little bit in your 30s, especially women, as we get pregnant, and then we think about losing weight, and then we think about not only our own nutrition, but also feeding our children. And really, most women really do want to provide healthy, balanced meals for their family. There's just a real disconnect as to how to do that. But this was kind of alarming. Fewer persons today alive at 70 survive until 90 than they did just over 40 years ago. That's absolutely amazing. 40 years ago, that was hardly a long time ago. I'm going to be 47 in a couple months, and so I'm just thinking about people like my great-grandparents when I was born. That's the generation that we're talking about, that they actually had greater odds of living till 90 than we do now with all of our modern advances in medicine and ease of living, right? All of these feel good. We're doing yoga. We've got heaters in our car for our lumbars. We can order a massage on our phone and have somebody show up at our door. We've got all these retreats and everything that we can go on for stress. Yet how is it that, let's just say, my great-grandparents actually had healthier bodies and minds? Right now in modern society, comparing it to my great-grandparents, smoking is actually down. Smoking is down. We have increased the amount of fresh vegetables that we eat. We have lowered our intake of salt. We have cut back on our red meat and our animal fats, but we're worse off. And I do want to say, forgive me if I sound like I'm reading, because I am. I'm making an effort to kind of stay on track, so I have given myself kind of shorthand notes. Chances are, if I'm pausing, I am literally trying to read my own writing and my own shorthand. But I mentioned a few of the powers that be a second ago. I'm just going to name a few, but the list is actually long. The FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, that is, the American Medical Association, the American Diabetes Association, the USDA, the National Institute of Health, the American Cancer Association, the American Heart Association, ... These are just some of the powers and authorities that have been providing the education. And I was almost going to say research, but let me say it a different way. Yes, they have been conducting massive amounts of research, but you have to look at who is behind the research. And in most cases, the food industry is behind the research. And along with the food industry, also the pharmaceutical industry. There has been plenty of research that has been done, but if the information is contrary to the information that I'm just going to continue to say powers that be would like to promote to our public, and I'm speaking as an American here, that information is probably, it's published just like all the other research papers are, but they are lost in some basements and filing cabinets. It's not as readily available for the public. But people smarter than myself and more capable than myself has really been starting to turn on the lights in these I'll just say basements where the research is being done, and because things just aren't adding up. Why are we worse off? And we have been following the guidelines. What's going on? Some of the guidelines that I know that everybody who's listening is familiar with is pretty much a grain-based diet. Grain-based diet, low fat, typically low calorie, low cholesterol. It's just a very confusing time, but it does come down to money, of course. And when you get a little bit more money, like let's talk about the FDA. There was actually a time when the FDA actually posted this as nutritional advice, that it is a good idea for every American to consume 1 cup of corn oil per day, and also Coca-Cola is an excellent snack. So that's what I'm talking about. And you know what, we do listen. We have listened, and that's why when they say, well, have diet soda, do that, or don't eat red meat, don't do that. We've actually been doing that, and how we let them know how we're doing and what we are doing by what we spend our money on. And we have been spending the money in the appropriate columns according to our governmental guidelines as far as eating. So I'm really glad that I, for one, am part of the movement to give health and the empowerment and responsibility of health and onus onto you again, onto all of us. It is up to us. So let's start the education. Let's just know first off that we actually need fats to be healthy humans. We need fat. Low fat is not good. Low calorie is not good. Low cholesterol is not good for us. And I'm going to say this now, and I'm going to say it 100 times or probably thousands of times over the length of all of these podcasts, is you will not get fat from dietary fat if you are eating the right ones. So why do we need fat? Well, one thing about fat is it does slow down our nutrient absorption, especially allowing us to go a longer length of time between meals. Now, if you're like me and you grew up my mom really tried, to do what was quote unquote healthy. Wish you could see my air quotes there. But what that did for us, my sister and I, living on a pretty much grain-based diet, even though my mom went to the health food store and everything else like that, and we had whole grains and all of this stuff, is that we had very low energy and we had sugar spikes. Our sugar would go up and it would drop really, really far down. And I've talked about it in the past in our family. We called it feeling weird. So fats help us slow down our nutrient absorption, vitamins A, D, E, and K especially. And there's a host of other processes that go along with fat consumption. But it also allows you to go longer between meals. This is something that I continue to struggle with today, even though I eat a high healthy fat diet. My brain and my patterning for most of my life has been